I want to start piggybacking off our last speaker in the sense that our K through second, even third grade learners really need hands-on instruction. They have been on the computer screens way too much. They've lost that hands-on instruction of how many of them learn in center time, in media, having books read to them in small group. iReady, I feel, is the worst thing we've ever done in our learning. There's no way of interpreting the data and the score, and it's just a gamified computer-driven program. I want my teachers reading to my children. I want them writing with paper and pencil. My second graders still can't write well. We haven't held a pencil in over 14 months. They're constantly on these computer screens. They need to be in small groups, learning, having the teacher read to them, working together to collaborate as small teams to come up with ideas. Middle school, there was no transition from 5th grade to 6th grade. My 6th grader started and he had no idea how to communicate with multiple teachers, how to email a teacher to get a response back to them. They're in 5th grade, and from middle school to 9th grade needs to be some transition instructions for them. How do I manage multiple classes? How do I email a teacher? How do I check for notifications if we're going to keep using Google Classroom or some form of that? How do I navigate just organizing myself? They've lost organization skills, so I really hope some of those resources will focus on those transitions from the next level, from elementary to the secondary level, because I'm sorry, but our children were lost in 6th grade and they did not have writing instruction. I had to teach my child how to write well. They get no feedback from their teachers other than you need to work on details. And that is not an appropriate intervention. There needs to be more one-on-one time with those students to really learn how to form writing. I'm happy to help, but I'm not the expert. Our teachers are. Those are the people that I want really working on that with my student versus an assessment test. They spend way too much time on assessment tests and less time one-on-one with our students, and that's the learning that they need to have back in that classroom.
Your time has expired.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all that you guys are doing to allow us to share ideas, and I hope everyone has a good evening.
Thank you. Our fourth and final speaker is Peggy Williams.
Ms. Williams, you're muted. You appear to be unmuted now. Go ahead, please. Dr. Ogilvie, I'm not sure what the issue is there. How about if we move forward and I will get a hold of Ms. Williams and we'll figure this out.
Perfect. Okay. The final segment where we will address tonight is scheduling and resources. We have 4 speakers for this section as well. Our first speaker is Jeffrey Kelly.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Kelly. I'm in Arnold. I'm an AACPS alumnus, father, and husband. Thanks for taking the time to solicit input for this next year as we move forward. One of the things I want to talk about was, depending on what next year looks like, there may be a need for more midday monitors and other staff members so that teachers can have time to take time to eat and to take care of personal hygiene. As it is now, it's inadequate to have staff members and other teachers regularly cover those issues because those individuals have their own responsibilities to take care of. But most importantly, I'd ask that you take the time to reconnect with your teachers. It seems a lot of that was lost this year. I'm a trained observer, and one of the observations that I made is that teachers seem to be bearing the brunt of the blame for the slow and incomplete reopening process. And even if it's not intended that way, that's certainly how they feel. That's their perception. It doesn't help when there are newspaper headlines as recently as last week that are nearly explicitly fingering the teachers as putting their own needs ahead of those of the students. That's simply something that's not true. I think back over a decade ago to my wife's first year of teaching, and something I had to get used to was her long 10-hour days at the building, followed by her evenings doing lesson planning and any kind of grading that she had to catch up on. And this year has simply been magnitudes of order worse. We've had way too many strings of 12-hour days, including work into the evenings after the kids go to bed, and work on the weekends and weekend nights. Except this is time spent rewriting lesson plans, making recordings for the students that won't be available to be live, and then throughout the week delivering those live. And this lack of boundary has really been costly. It distresses the teachers and those that love and support them. So I don't have a solution to the challenges that the teachers and other staff experienced this year, but I simply ask that you take the time to show your teachers through your actions that you support them and cherish their work. They need it, and so do we. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Lori.
Dr. Ogilvy, I think we have Ms. Williams now. Could we go back to her, please?
Sure. So we're going to transition back to our section on teaching and learning and hear from Mrs. Williams.
Ms. Williams, you're unmuted. Go ahead, please. So perhaps I spoke too soon. I guess we can go back to the speaker. Ms. Byrne-Rice is not signed in, so Ms.
Lori Smith. So we'll hear from Lori Smith.
Hi. So this year was the first year that Severna Park High had a nest block, or I don't know, they call it a Bruin block, a Panther hour, whatever, that time in the middle of the day when kids could go for extra help and do clubs. And it was fantastic. I have a high schooler and she said it was amazing. Severna Park has refused to implement that in the past, and I would love if that could be required at all high schools, just because people think, you know, oh, the kids don't need it, they're whatever, they have transportation or they have their own cars. Not true. Our kids need this too. So please implement that for all high schools. For resources, I'm really concerned about what's going to be expected of our teachers as far as differentiated lessons next year. Some kids really didn't do well at all this year, barely grasping anything, but are still being pushed up a grade. Some kids mastered all topics easily and more. The teachers really can't be expected to differentiate that much content to a classroom. It's unfair to the kids who need catch-up work, as they're going to feel overwhelmed by their peers running ahead. And it's really unfair also to the kids who are ready to move on to grade level and above grade level work. You really have to make sure you're not just playing catch up for everybody, but also helping the kids continue who were able to master it. Remember to elevate all kids. I also ask that parents who request their child repeat a grade be allowed to do so. I know in past years that's been a sticky point, and AACPS doesn't really want to do that. They want to promote the kids. But this year more than ever, I think if a parent feels their kid needs to repeat, they should be allowed. Maybe something like a pre-first grade, like St. Martin's in the Field used to do, might be a great option for kids who finished kindergarten, aren't quite ready for first grade, but maybe didn't master kindergarten well enough. So those kind of creative solutions might be great. For high schoolers, I feel that teachers should not be in AP and honors classes, should not be expected to do any catch-up work. those kids are taking on that challenge and they should be ready for it. And that's a lot. Those are hard curriculums and those kids should be ready to jump in. To that end, some might be over their heads, and I'd like to see extended the drop window. It's usually just the first week of school to change a class, and it's too hard is never a reason. So I'd like to see that actually be a reason this year for a kid to drop down a level when they realize it's really not a good fit this year. Again, kids coming back to the classroom is going to be very different. So please extend that window. And
Your time has expired.
also, more programs like Bridge to Algebra would be awesome. Get the kids away from these computers. They're on them way too much. It's not good for any of them. And for the virtual school, please utilize as many existing state programs and classes for the limited medical necessary kids in that virtual academy, so you can use precious resources to help out the majority of the kids in the in-person classroom. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mosier, would you like me to finish this section or move on with Mrs. Williams? I'm not sure if her audio is okay.
Ms. Restaino is not signed in. So I'm hoping we have Ms. Williams ready to go. So Ms. Williams, if you can hear us, you can speak.
Okay, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Third time's the charm.
Okay. Thank you for allowing me to provide feedback. In the last year, I have two children in the Severna Park cluster. In the last year, between overhearing my children's virtual lessons while I telework nearby, endless emails coming from AACPS and their support of social justice and diversity programs, and seeing the experiences of other parents across the country, I've come to learn what critical race theory is. Wanting to understand it better, I tried to read the book White Fragility, but could not finish even the first chapter because I quickly realized CRT was racism, disguised as anti-racism. It disturbs me that my children are being taught that America is a racist country overrun with white supremacy rather than a place where anyone can excel no matter the color of their skin. Their lessons seem to spend an inordinate amount of time teaching that people in society have different roles and capabilities based on their skin color rather than based on their character and determination to excel. They're being taught an alternate version of reality, that systemic racism is a real thing when it isn't. All this is just a part of a larger agenda meant to take away individual thought and to control the minds and actions of many, our kids. It's not AACPS's job to teach my kids to be social justice warriors, to ultimately go out in the streets with raised fists and dressed in black bloc. My hope for the school year beginning in fall of 2021 is that AACPS stops politicizing its curriculum and focuses on math, reading, writing, English, and science without either overt or covert references to all the ways people can be divided. Lastly, my kids need to learn in a free environment with an unobstructed flow of oxygen. The mask mandate has been removed in other places, so take these masks off our kids. At this point, it's political theater. AACPS needs to stop making our kids political pawns in this Marxist agenda of control and hiding their individualism behind these masks. Thank you.
Thank you. If no one else has signed in, that concludes our public comment for this evening. We would like to thank you again for participating in the listening tour. Please take time to provide additional comments using the feedback form located on our website at aacps.org/listening tour.